instant reaction, Hard Knocks, Bears. That was an amazing episode. I cried, I smiled, I laughed. Hi Woot, hi Braggs.
Hello.
Go
Did
ahead.
you really cry though?
I did get a little teary because I mean, for some, listen, I've been cut from every team I've ever tried out for. I was cut
You're
from
about to
seven.
be cut from this one too.
Yeah, I love my, you know what my new favorite thing is? Angry Hogue. I like angry, annoyed Hogue. That's my new favorite Hogue. I got cut from this. I'm being vulnerable here. I got cut from the 7th grade basketball team. I got cut from the 8th grade basketball team. I should have made both those teams. I didn't make those teams. I got cut from freshman year, 5 foot, 100-pound prepubescent Carmen. I was Adrian Colbert today. So there's a part of me. I got cut from the Iowa Hawkeye walk-on squad. I know getting cut. So yes, I felt it today, Woot. I did.
I mean, I just what I love the most is that they showed in Hard Knocks. What I love is they show those interactions between the GM and the coaches and the players. And the one in particular, especially with Colbert, I think that one hit home for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because I think that was such a hard decision for Ryan Poles. I feel like he was so emotionally conflicted because I feel like he was such a good dude. He was a good leader in the locker room. So I think that was a tough one for him to do. And I think that's what a lot of these GMs battle with. And I think Poles, it really shows how he cares for these guys. Because I think most GMs, sometimes they cut a player and not think twice about it, even if they're a good dude, even if they're good for the locker room. But I think Poles is a great dude, and I love what he's building. And I think it sheds him in a different light than people that didn't really know much about him, especially this Hard Knocks in general. Just his love for the players.
I mean, Woot, have you ever heard of that? He left the room and then came back in. That whole scene right there. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
No, I've never seen it. Usually a lot of these GMs are ready to cut people. Like, yep, you're gone. Bye. You know, that's the reality of the NFL is the cutthroat part of the business. And I think the thing that resonated is like the fact that he said most of these guys, it'll be their last time ever playing. And that happened to him. He was there 08. But think about it, from the time you're a kid, right? Whether you play a long NFL career or you get cut there, your dream is to make it. And a lot of those guys, they never get a chance to make it at all on an active roster, practice squad, any of that nature. So it's definitely a tough pill to swallow for a lot of those guys that had high hopes and high dreams.
Yeah. Back to you, Hoger. What was your instant reaction to the final episode?
Yeah, I got a lot of like smaller things that I will touch on, but honestly, the biggest thing I got left with as that episode ended is, this is my 14th season covering this team. I've never felt better about the direction that they're headed. And we've obviously been duped before. I think there's a difference though between hope and some things that are a little bit what's the word? Some things that seem a little bit more
grounded in reality.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like I think we kind of talked ourselves into some things. Like, and I don't want to make this so much based on like how good these guys seem. They are good guys. I know that from talking to them. But guess what? Ryan Pace was also a good guy. Ryan Pace was a good dude. I had a lot of interactions with him too. But I just feel like you walk out of these 5 episodes of Hard Knocks with just some behind the scenes confirmation of things that we already felt good about. I'd be shocked, and I know I said this last year, but if you're one of 31 other teams watching that, how's Ian Cunningham not the first phone call you make if you fire your GM after this season? Not only just because of how Ian Cunningham came off, he didn't have a huge part in that, but Ryan Poles was so impressive, I thought, throughout this series, and has been with on top of all the moves he's made, that you want the guy that's learning underneath him, right? You like that little interaction they had there where he said the same thing about Adrian Colbert that Ryan said, and he's like, I just said that. Like they're so in sync there that I think you feel good about the front office. You obviously feel good about the quarterback. There's another moment in there right there that if you're not believing us for things that we're saying about Caleb Williams or saying that we're hearing about Caleb on and off the microphone, there's a quarterback that's in the room right there in a raw moment who is not doing an interview. He doesn't need to say something nice about Caleb Williams, but he's not only saying like, you're going to have a really good player here, but as he's on his way to the airport to join the Minnesota Vikings, he's like, that's going to be a good team. The Bears are going to be a good team. So I just think there's so many examples like that. And I know I've been on an island, even with the head coach here for a couple of years. I feel like there's some people starting to pull up their boats to the island I've been on and starting to get a little crowded here on Matt Eberflus. I think people are starting to buy in on this. And I understood why nobody was with me for a while. But when some wins start piling up here, I think more people are going to be jumping on the Matt Eberflus bandwagon too. So just my overall take throughout these 5 episodes now that they're done is I just feel even more confident than I already did about the direction of this franchise.
I mean, right now, I think if Flus put out there, he's got honey to sell. I think it would sell out in 3 seconds. We'd buy Flus P honey. Flus. I agree with you. Flus has had a major come up in the last. We probably can date it back to 6 months. Gregory, get in here. What's your instant reaction?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of piggyback off what Hoke's saying, to kind of put a bow on this Hard Knocks series, and it was a lot of fun to watch this behind-the-scenes look. We all wanted this as Bears fans, and we got it for 5 episodes. And it is a when you see it kind of thing. And we don't always have, the best teams in Chicago year to year, but when they do come along, the teams that do have that right look, that right talent, that right chemistry, it does start to have a different type of feel. We always talk ourselves into the best hopes and dreams we can have for every single team, every single season, and it doesn't always seem to work out. But those teams that kind of transcend our hopes and dreams and shift it into something that's more of a reality, you feel it. And, I think when you look at the first episode all the way to the last, and you see how in the first episode, Caleb Williams is struggling, right? And they're playing the music and it's about him being an ordinary man, right? And then it ends with him gripping and ripping it in rhythm and just everything's clicking on all cylinders. And you see the camaraderie of the team start to come together. It's an exciting time right now to be a Chicago Bears fan. Ryan Poles is the real deal Holyfield GM. I have, maybe I still have some things that I want to see Matt Eberflus prove to me, but Ryan Poles, from the day he's walked in here as one of the youngest GMs, if not the youngest GM in football, credit to George McCaskey for seeing the light and hiring this guy and not letting him take a flight to Minnesota and potentially becoming the Vikings GM. He kept him here. And the job that Ryan Poles has done to rebuild this roster, but not just rebuild this roster, rebuild this culture. And culture is kind of a loosely used term in sports, but that's, again, it when you see it. And when I see my GM of the team that I've rooted for my whole life, the team that Corey Wooten played for, getting emotional because he has to make a tough cut with Adrian Colbert, I think that really underlines just how much blood, sweat, and tears this guy is putting into this team. When I watch him in a highlight reel at Bourbonnais in 2008 at the outdoor stadium playing a night practice, I promise you I was sitting in those stands that day. To now see him become the GM of the team and rebuild this team to where it is now, it just gets me so excited as a Bears fan of the direction we're going. So I completely agree with you, Hogue. That's kind of what resonated with me tonight.
That was cool that they pulled out that audio of 70 on the field. That was a good job by the Hard Knocks producers. Good, excellent work. Woot, let me give my my big takeaway. Velus Jones Jr. came a long way in a short period of time. Yeah. You got Chad Morton going to bat for him. You got Ryan Poles saying he's alive. I thought that was like a little.
You got another team calling a trade for him,
right? And he said, "I'm not, a fourth." He wasn't going to give him away. So now, maybe whoever that team was, maybe they're kicking themselves, or hopefully they'll be kicking themselves. They wouldn't give up a 4th rounder for him. But the level that people were championing for Velus, it's like, man, you saved your career in Chicago, my friend. That was a big time deal.
Could you imagine if the Bears had gotten a 4th back for Velus Jones after they just flipped one for Austin Booker. And you're right. At one point, Chad Morton said, I'm going to fight for Velus more than anybody on this roster. That's what Chad Morton had to say about Velus. And so you could tell just in those conversations, if not for this position switch, he wasn't making this roster. And so for him to not only make the position switch, but then make the impact and the impression that he did, and not just outside the tackles, inside the tackles. And that's something that I think is going underlooked, is just how much he impressed them inside the tackles. I think that is what really pushed it over the top for Velus to make this roster.
We lost your mic with your movement here. Go back to whatever you had before.
Hogue, your Velus thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, that was a fascinating scene. It had me thinking, man, I sympathize with Poles in that moment, because, you know, it's like a guy that probably 2 weeks ago someone offered you a 4th round pick, you're gonna take it easily. And now, like, what I got out of that conversation was, I won't take anything worse than a 4th round pick, but even a 4th rounder is like, he didn't want to give him up. He was like, man, we got something here that's tough to give up at this time. So I found that super interesting.
And you're not back. No, we messed with Woot, and now we can't hear Woot. It's a terrible feeling.
Oh, this is great, because if he's making fun of me, we can't hear him, and that's perfect for me. That's a perfect spot to be in. Can't talk about my biceps now, can you, Woot?
Behind the scenes, we were working on Woot's mic, and Woot went production maneuver on the scene, and now we're trying to fix it out here. I don't know, maybe you might want to log in, log back on.
Yeah, I was gonna say log out and redo the input and then come back in.
And while he goes out, I'll do my one, and I think you guys are gonna agree with me, but maybe you won't. There was one really weird moment in the show tonight, and it's when Kevin Warren gets in there with Papa Bear, and they're showing him at his desk, and he's looking to his right to like look at Papa Bear looking over him. And I'm just like, okay, that is weird. Take that painting down or put it somewhere else. I wouldn't want that dude lording over me in my office. And just like look at him, and it's just like ghost. That was weird. Am I the only one that thought that was weird? Because that was freaking weird.
I didn't find that weird at all, but I did not know about that chandelier situation.
Neither did I.
Yes, that was interesting.
I thought that was cool, because I've seen that, but I didn't know that like it had that type of meaning. And
yeah, the chandelier rods, each color signifies something different. So white was for winning, blue were for playoffs, and orange were for championships. And at the bottom of the rods of the chandelier tips were the years of each one. So I thought that was interesting for sure too.
We all silly like the mayor.